The ballroom froze when Colonel Finch's laughter cut through the air like a rifle crack. Every head turned toward the young woman standing near the back. Ara Vance, her faded combat uniform the only thing in a sea of polished metals and brass. She didn't flinch. The colonel's smirk widened, but Ara's calm stare never broke. Her hands were steady, her silence sharper than any salute. In that moment, no one in the room realized that the patch on her shoulder wasn't a mistake. It was a mark of ghosts who never came home. Before you judge a uniform, remember what it hides. Subscribe to Raw Flair Stories to keep their stories alive. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? The colonel's laughter echoed through the ballroom like the snap of a breaking salute. For a moment, even the orchestra faltered. The guests turned, a sea of glittering metals and polished boots, toward the lone figure standing near the back. Ara Vance. Her uniform wasn't the crisp dress blues of ceremony, but a weathered field jacket, sleeves rolled and faded by sun and sand. Every eye judged her, every whisper was a blade, yet she stood unflinching, chin high, her silence louder than their scorn. Colonel Alistair Finch, draped in metals like armor, stepped forward, amusement dancing across his weathered face. "Tell me, soldier," he said, his tone slick with authority. "Did you mistake this for a field inspection?" Laughter rippled through the ranks of officers and spouses. Crystal glasses chimed against nervous chuckles. Still, Ara said nothing. Her gaze never wavered. Finch's smirk grew crueler. "No rank, no ribbons? Are you even military?" The words cut deep, meant to humiliate, but Ara's calm unnerved him. Behind her stillness was something old, something earned in dust and blood. The patch on her shoulder, a hawk gripping a lightning bolt, shimmered faintly beneath the chandeliers, unnoticed by most, yet unsettling to the few who recognized its shape. To them, she was out of place, a ghost in combat cloth among commanders in brass. Yet her posture betrayed no shame. She had learned long ago that silence could wound more than words. A faint tremor passed through her clasped hands, gone in an instant. Finch took another step forward, feeding on the crowd's approval. "Answer me, Corporal. Or are you too far below the chain to speak?" The room held its breath. The scent of perfume and polished leather filled the air, heavy as judgment. Even the music dared not resume. Ara's voice, when it finally came, was low, calm, clear enough to slice the tension in two. "Sir," she said softly, "this is my uniform, the only one that ever mattered." The laughter died. Finch blinked, caught off guard. "Your uniform?" he echoed, voice rising. "You disgrace the service by showing up like this." But in the silence that followed, something about her tone unsettled even him. It wasn't arrogance. It was memory. A general near the bar squinted. "That patch. Where have I seen that before?" he murmured. The murmurs spread like sparks through dry grass. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the colonel's face. Ara didn't move. The ballroom lights gleamed against her worn sleeves and the faint scar tracing her temple. Every detail spoke of battles fought far from the ballroom's polished floors. The colonel's laughter had lit the match, but something in Ara's silence was about to burn the room to the ground. The colonel's smirk flickered when Ara didn't look away. For the first time, uncertainty cracked through his polished confidence. The ballroom's laughter quieted, leaving only the faint hum of the chandeliers above. Ara Vance, standing beneath that soft golden light, looked out of place, and yet more soldier than anyone in that room. "Explain yourself," Finch demanded, voice booming across the floor. "You wear the cloth of our service, yet no rank, no ribbons. What are you?" Her reply was steady, stripped of ego. "Someone who served where the medals don't shine, sir." A murmur rippled through the audience. It wasn't defiance, it was truth. Even the general seated near the back adjusted his posture, studying her closely. There was something in her tone, something that belonged to those who had stood too close to war's edge. Finch chuckled again, but the sound was brittle now. "You expect me to believe that?" He took another step forward. His shoes echoed on marble. "Where, exactly, did you serve, Corporal?" Ara didn't answer. Her silence was armor. Her eyes, sharp, observant, scanned the room as though assessing exits, noting corners, mapping the unseen. Instincts carved by battlefields, not ballrooms. Finch's amusement twisted into irritation. "Well," he barked, "you're under scrutiny here, soldier. Speak." A nervous lieutenant whispered to his partner, "She's bluffing." But the general near the bar frowned deeper. That patch, the hawk clutching lightning, nagged at the edges of memory. He had seen it somewhere, buried in old restricted briefings. Then he noticed the way she stood, weight balanced evenly, shoulders set, chin aligned with the horizon. That was no casual stance. That was combat readiness, the kind you never unlearn. Ara finally spoke, her tone so quiet the words carried farther than any shout. That patch belonged to a unit called Resolute. A toaser. A few nearby officers froze, mid-sip. One glass slipped, shattering softly against the marble. Finch blinked, confusion chasing through his features. "Never heard of it." "You weren't meant to," Ara replied. The ballroom's air changed. Polished brass seemed to dim beneath the gravity of her voice. In a corner, an older naval officer looked sharply toward her, his eyes narrowing with sudden recognition. JSOTF's teen. The whispered code name surfaced in his mind. A task force spoken of only in secure halls. If that was true, if she had served under that insignia, then the young woman before them was no ordinary corporal. She was a ghost of the Black Ops world. Finch didn't notice the shift. "You expect us to believe you walked among classified units, Corporal?" he said mockingly. "Then where's your proof?" Ara didn't move. Her expression was calm, but her hands, clasped in front of her, tightened briefly, a flash of old pain resurfacing. "Proof," she said softly, "isn't always worn. Sometimes it's buried." The colonel opened his mouth to retort, but the sound that followed wasn't his. It was silence. Heavy, absolute, the kind that falls before something unforgettable happens. The ballroom's silence deepened until even the chandeliers seemed to hum. Every eye was fixed on Corporal Ara Vance, the woman who refused to shrink beneath the colonel's mockery. Finch's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to defiance, especially from someone dressed in combat cloth amid metals and satin. "You're testing my patience," he said sharply. "Either show credentials or walk out." Ara didn't move. The gold light traced her silhouette, revealing the small coin she now unclipped from her lapel. It was old, tarnished, worn smooth by years of touch. Finch scoffed, but the general near the bar leaned forward. The faint engraving caught the light. A word carved in precision, Resolute. Beneath it, a line of coordinates. Finch frowned. "A trinket?" Ara turned the coin in her hand, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not for display, sir. It's for remembrance." The room's atmosphere shifted again, a subtle current of unease. Someone at the back murmured, "Coordinates?" Another whispered, "That looks military." Finch stepped closer. "You think some souvenir gives you credibility?" The coin glinted once more. The coordinates etched beneath the word Resolute pinpointed a stretch of Afghanistan no map displayed openly, an area whispered among classified circles as Objective Griffin. Only a handful of people alive knew that name. An older admiral rose slowly from his seat, his complexion paling. "Sir," he said under his breath to Finch, "put that coin down." But Finch didn't listen. "You expect me to be impressed by secret code words?" he barked. "Who do you think you are, Corporal?" Ara's tone stayed calm. "Someone who's buried more than medals, sir." A ripple of quiet gasps moved through the crowd. Her words struck deeper than any outburst could. For the first time, a nervous energy began to grow around Finch. Not directed at Ara, but at him. The audience's loyalty was shifting. At the far end of the ballroom, a figure stirred. A tall man, in immaculate Navy SEAL dress whites, his uniform gleaming beneath the chandeliers. He had been silent until now, his face unreadable. As he stepped forward, his polished shoes echoed like drumbeats. Finch noticed him and straightened instinctively. "Lieutenant Commander," he greeted, tone forced. "You're late to the festivities." The SEAL didn't smile. His gaze was locked on the coin in Ara's hand. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of command. "Where did you get that?" Ara met his eyes. "I didn't get it, sir. I earned it." The crowd turned again, confusion flooding their expressions. Finch chuckled dryly. "And who might you be to question this little show?" The lieutenant commander ignored him entirely. He stepped closer to Ara, his movements precise, deliberate. The closer he came, the clearer the tension grew. This was no coincidence. His eyes narrowed as he took in the coin, the patch, the scar at her temple. Recognition flared. He whispered, "Griffin." Ara's expression didn't change, but a flicker of memory crossed her gaze. A faint shadow of loss in dust and gunfire. "Sir?" Finch demanded, voice rising. "You know her?" The SEAL turned to face him. "Yes," he said quietly. "And so should you." The colonel froze, caught between confusion and disbelief. The lieutenant commander straightened, his jaw set. "You owe this soldier an apology." Gasps broke across the ballroom. Finch's face drained of color. The SEAL's next words came out like a verdict. "Because without her, half of us in that room called Griffin would be dead." For a heartbeat, no one moved. The orchestra's strings hung midair, the crowd frozen in disbelief. Lieutenant Commander Miller, his uniform immaculate, looked straight at Colonel Finch with eyes like cold steel. "That woman," he said, voice low but firm, "saved my crew." Whispers rippled through the room. Finch's lips parted, but no sound came. Miller stepped closer to Corporal Era Vance, his posture sharp, reverent. "Operation Resolute," he said quietly, and a collective shiver passed through the officers present. The name was legend, buried beneath classified walls, a black ops extraction deep in Afghanistan, one no one was supposed to talk about. He continued, voice trembling just slightly with memory. "We were stranded behind enemy lines, our radios jammed, our air support gone. Every signal was silent, except hers. Corporal Vance broke through the interference, decrypted the enemy frequencies, and transmitted our coordinates manually while under fire. We made it home because of her." The ballroom fell utterly silent. Chandeliers reflected in tear-glazed eyes. Even Finch, rigid, red-faced, took a step back. The truth stripped him bare. Every snide remark, every ounce of mockery, now burned in shame beneath the weight of revelation. Miller turned to Ara, his hand trembling slightly as he straightened his posture. "Ma'am," he said, deliberately, respectfully, "it's an honor." Then he raised his hand in a crisp, flawless salute. The gesture cracked the air like thunder. The crowd gasped. Finch's shoulders sagged. For a few seconds, time itself stopped. A man whose rank could command battalions now stood saluting a corporal in a faded, unadorned uniform. Slowly, almost hesitantly, Finch followed. His hand rose, stiff at first, then steadier, his expression dissolving into quiet remorse. One by one the others rose too. Generals, admirals, officers of Eve, Desires, RI branch. All stood at attention. The sea of polished brass reflected the soft light as hundreds of hands lifted to salute the soldier they had dismissed. Ara didn't move. She didn't smile or cry. She simply returned the salute. Slow, precise, perfect. Her eyes shimmered, not from pride, but from the ache of memory. When Miller lowered his hand, the applause began. Soft at first, then thunderous. The ballroom erupted in a storm of respect that shook its crystal walls. Some civilians wept openly, others whispered her name, their voices trembling with awe. Ara Vance, the quiet ghost from the field, had reminded them all what true valor looked like. As the clapping subsided, Finch approached her. The arrogance was gone, replaced by humility. "Corporal," he said hoarsely, "I was wrong. I didn't see." Ara's reply was simple. "You weren't supposed to see, sir. Not then." He nodded, unable to speak. The lesson was carved into his soul. Miller extended a hand, his voice softer now. "The world should remember soldiers like you." Ara shook her head gently. "No, sir. Just remember why we fight." And with that, she turned away, the noise fading behind her, leaving only the echo of respect that would outlive them all. In every uniform lies a story the world forgets. Honor the unseen heroes. Subscribe now and keep their courage alive.